Okay, I'll get started and other people can join us as they will. So I always start these out. Hello, welcome. I'm Vicki. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce, and I want to run you through a couple of daily updates before we get going with Joe Ruskey. So I'm going to share my screen over here. And usually I just run you through the update, the website to show you what's new. So we do have this is actually past webinars. We forgot to change the name of it. We'll get that changed. You can see our email that we sent out today. Latest news, still looking for medical supplies. The newest thing here is social
Vicki,
media. Yep.
hang on, let me share. You're not coming through.
Oh, I'm not sharing. It's showing my screen is sharing. Oh, I forget to double click. That extra click makes a difference. Is that working now, Maggie?
Yes.
Okay. So chamber chat down here is actually past recordings, so you can see those at any time. We'll rename it. It's not named properly. Obviously, anytime you can pull up our past day's email. A couple of things of note here. Our social media, our job board has officially launched. It's a Facebook-based job board. We got great feedback from our businesses as to who is hiring. I think there's 25 businesses that are posted there. And if you go to it, you can post directly to that Facebook group. You can also tag anything that you are already posting, and that will help us pick it up and just share it out. Otherwise, big news coming out is, I'm going to stop sharing here and pull up a different page. The big news coming out is that the feds on the Senate side have approved some funding for businesses, and what we are waiting for is now the House to approve it. They're expected to do that tomorrow, and so there's links in the email as to what got included in that. I will also quick pull up any of the headlines, not that I can go into a ton more detail than what you can read, but there is a really great guidebook out there. I've read through it. It's WEDC's guide, and there is a link to that has some great resources in there. And also, sorry, I'm pulling up my chamber email here. There's some fun updates too, like the Lacrosse Street is actually being fixed right now. I shouldn't say fixed, it's being prepared to be fixed, which has been a key point, talking point for many of our members. Otherwise, there's some interesting news coming out of WEDC and what they know. So China is actually starting to open up again. Seattle, it appears, has hit their peak. The pain point, though, is the CDC is saying 8 weeks. Once you start, 8 weeks until you start to reopen again, and that will obviously be painful. That takes us into May. And so that's just something to keep in the back of your mind, that April 24th may actually turn into May. And then another quick thing too, our state chamber, Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, has a legislative agenda that is really focused on getting our businesses equipped to reboot. And that is, even as things start to slow, that's really what the conversation that our chamber is starting to have, is how do we start to make sure that our businesses are, aside from the financial components, really making sure that they're getting their businesses stronger as they reboot. So, a couple of housekeeping things before I move to Joe. So if you have the participant list up, what you are going to see are some quick buttons on there. You can raise your hand. You can, sorry, I'm going to pull up the instructions here. If you click on Manage Participants, in the box that comes up, you click on yourself, and you will see a raise hand icon come up. And then there's also some emotional reactions that you can add if you just want to give some kudos to us as we're talking to you here. So, so with that, we were very excited to have Joe Ruskey come forward and say, hey, if there's any needs that businesses have from a technology standpoint. Joe owns Dependable Solutions, and so we asked him to come on today. And Joe, obviously technology is the backbone of what we have keeping us together, the glue, I think I called it. So what are some of those frequently asked questions that you're hearing, and how do we make these platforms work best for us?
Sure. Thanks, Vicki. First of all, I want to start out just by saying thank you to Vicki and her staff. We are also we are considered an essential business because we do IT. And so I have been spending 16 hours a day, 7 days a week since this whole thing started, digging through, watching press conferences, reading everything that comes out from the feds, looking at all this information, trying to compile it and pick out the stuff that's accurate and true. So I know how exhausting this is, and I know Vicki and her team are doing this as well so that she can get the information out to you guys. So thank you, Vicki, to you and your staff. I know this is not an easy task. Something I recently saw was it's time for leaders to lead. I think the chamber is proving that you're a leader in the community, and you're leading and helping us through this unprecedented time. And I think that's phenomenal. And it's good to see that we can look to you during times like this. So thank you to you and your staff.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So obviously, in my industry, we're very aware of viruses, but I have to say this is the first virus that ever hit my company that wasn't on a computer that has affected us immensely. We are getting a ton of questions. We work with schools and police departments and businesses, and you name it, we've got clients in there. And one of the first things they ask is, oh my gosh, how do I move my entire organization remote? Let me tell you, first of all, don't stress. We're all in this together. Before everybody came online, Vicki and I were joking about, some people are on these meetings and there's dogs barking and there's kids talking. And whether you're on a meeting, a conference call, a video call, whatever, with your customers, they understand it. They're probably sitting in their house too, with their kids yelling in the background and dogs barking and cats climbing on their desk and things like that. So I think it's so important for people to realize, don't stress. The other thing that I think is important for people to realize is that they need to understand that they don't have to move everything that they're doing remote. There might be some things that you find that you were doing in-house that maybe you're doing it because you've always done it. Maybe it's not necessarily a necessity, or maybe it's not necessarily an efficient way of doing things. So, I think honestly, when we come out of this, we're going to find that we've looked at our business practices. We've changed a lot of things to technology driven, which is going to make us more efficient. And we've eliminated some things that maybe we've been doing that we don't have to necessarily do. The other thing that I think that this is helping to force is it's allowing people to realize that they actually can have staff working remotely. It's a forced dry run at it is really what it turns into. And so, instead of being scared, I think we need to embrace this. And that's what we've been telling our customers. One of the first questions we get is, hey, can I just unhook all my machines and just send them home with my staff? I would love to say yes, but chances are the answer is probably no. And the reason is a lot of your machines are tied into servers and disks and things that won't work off-site. So as much as it would be great to say, yes, you can do that, the reality of the situation is you just can't do that. There are alternatives. I mean, and we're going to talk through some of the tools, but if you want the exact same experience of what you're used to getting on your machine, then there are tools like Go to My PC, Log Me In, TeamViewer. Those are subscription-based solutions. Usually they run about $300 to $400 a year, but they do allow you to basically install it on your work computer, and then you can access it remotely at your house by going to a website. Whether that's on a tablet, whether that's on a laptop, you can access them. You can get the full functionality. You're basically staring at your work computer. Now, keep in mind, we just had an entire city that we work with, their power went out for an hour, so it shut everything down in that city. If that happens, you don't have access to your machine anymore until you get back to your office and you can kick it on. So depending on how your company is or your building, if you're able to access it, just keep in mind, if you have those remote tools, you do run that risk. One of the other things that we keep getting is, hey, I want to forward all my phones directly to my employees' cell phones. Is this possible? Depends on your phone system, but let me tell you, you're probably designed with only so many phone lines. And think about every phone call that comes in. If you're then forwarding it out to your cell phone or your home phone, you're now tying up 2 phone lines for every single call. So your systems probably aren't built to do what you're looking to do. There's definitely some alternatives out there. Zoom has a phone system, and there's some other people that have phone systems. But by the time you get it rolled out and working the way you want it to work, chances are we're going to be moving back into our offices. And so it's probably, if you do a cost benefit on it, it's not worth making that huge change. What we're telling most people is look at your phone systems and see if you can set them up so that your voicemails go directly to your email. That's a more efficient way of doing it. And your whether it's an IT vendor or whether it's a phone vendor like 5-Star, whoever you're working with, most of them can get onto your systems and take care of that. And phone vendors are listed as essential as well, so they should still be working. We talked about it a little bit. I need to transfer every function to remote immediately. You're not going to be able to do this successfully. Don't try to do it. It's going to do nothing but stress you out. One of the main things that everybody said was, well, we need to be able to print, and we do all this printing. We've been talking about going paperless for a long time in this, in many industries. Let's try it. Let's see if it works. Instead of going out and buying printers and all that stuff, let's see if we can go and we can collaborate online with the different tools before we spend all this money on printers and things like that. I was even looking at it the other day. I was working remotely out of a hotel on the east side of the state, and I needed to scan some stuff in. I went out and I found out that Adobe Scan is a free product. It's a great product. You basically put it on your phone. It can be an iPhone. It can be an Android phone, Google phone. It's just an app. You throw Adobe Scan on there. You sign into it with either you create an account or you can use your Gmail account. And it's free. And you just basically take a picture of the document. It converts it to text. You can share it and email it to yourself. And it does everything that a scanner would do. It's not just a picture, it's actually what's called OCR. So you can search on text and everything inside of that document. So there's some creative apps out there if you just want to look around. Don't assume you have to spend money on anything at this point. So I want to talk about some file sharing things quickly. There are multiple tools out there. So there's things like Dropbox or Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive. There are free options and there are paid options. I want to tell you to be careful because depending on what industry you're in, free may not be compliant for you. Whether if you need to follow HIPAA or FERPA, or if you need to follow some of the financial institution guidelines and things, you may not be able to use the free versions. If you're a smaller company, 1 or 2 people, and you have a personal Gmail account, go ahead and use that and share files and things like that, or Dropbox or even OneDrive. But if you need to share with a team, I'd say once you get around 3 or 4 people, you probably want to go to the paid versions. And the paid versions aren't that much. It's like $5 per user per month for something like Google Teams. There's Microsoft Teams right now. They're doing some free trials, but then they're not that expensive as well. And you can share files. You can collaborate. You can message each other. You can do video conferencing with a lot of these tools. So those are 3 that we highly recommend. If you're just looking for something to message each other, again, Google works well. Google Chat, Microsoft Teams, if you're in Office 365 Office, works really well. If you're looking for something basically free, that you just want to hurry up and be able to chat back and forth, but be able to, do it in a business manner, look at Slack. Slack is a good product that's out there that allows you and your team to collaborate. And the free version is going to give most small businesses a lot of abilities just to communicate with each other. Then when we start looking at conferencing, first of all, what Vicki and her team have chose Zoom. I was just telling her, this is by far the best tool that is out there. It is so simple to use. Your customers know how to use it. There's a free version that allows you to have a conference of up to, I think, 10 people and 20-minute conferences for free. So you can sign up for free if that gives you enough time. Or there's the paid version that allows you to go up to 100 people, and then it even goes beyond that. And that's not that much. It might be like, I don't remember, but let's say $15 a license per month or something like that. So it's not a lot of money. If you're a Microsoft Office like we are, we collaborate internally with Microsoft Teams. You can do video conferencing and chats and working with the files like I told you. If you're a Google house, Google Meets or Hangouts, that allows you to do it as well. And again, there are some free versions of Google, but it really depends on how much information you want out there and if you're violating any compliancy issues. As far as safety, some people said, hey, we need to email our customers a lot more. I need something safe if I'm sending out information that maybe could violate HIPAA or something like that. There's all kinds of email encryption and other products out there. Zix is a really good one that a lot of people are using. Those are more for companies, that are probably using 10 plus users. There's also some, you can just go out there and look for different encryption products. I only recommend Zix because I know it's HIPAA compliant, FERPA compliant, things like that. But there are other products out there. And then there's some other tools out there. Like if you're a larger organization, you might have VPN set up that will allow you to virtually connect into your network, access files, do all kinds of things. So there are the ability for VPN to where you're basically on your machine, accessing your files at home. Outside of that, the only thing that I would like to bring up besides the tools is one of the things that I've been reading a lot on and hearing a lot about is all this technology is important. And I think we're going to come out of this and we're going to be more streamlined and more efficient as companies. But communicate. These in-person, face-to-face meetings like we're doing with Zoom are so important. Most of us have built teams in our offices and our people are so used to seeing each other. It's also important to see the facial expressions of people. Video conferencing is so important. So I encourage you, every day, or at least they're recommending at least once every 2 days, check in with your team via video. Make sure that you're talking and you're on the same page. Set clear guidelines. My company, we work with a lot of millennials. They're newer in their careers. How do you deal with them? How do you set expectations? How do you let them go? You work on their own. Make sure that you're setting extremely clear guidelines and let them know, hey, we're going to have a check-in. Tomorrow we start doing what we're calling our dispatch from home. We have 25 employees. Everybody's going to be working from home. Every day we're going to just have a Zoom open to where everybody can check in. We're going to set our expectations at 8:30 in the morning and then allow people to check in for the next hour. If they have questions, they can just hop on that Zoom conference, ask any questions they have, and then we'll have periodic check-ins throughout the day. So make sure you use your tools that you have out there and communicate with each other. And then the only other piece I'd want to recommend for technology is understand your customers are at home as well. And they have a lot of, it's a lot more loose than their normally structured day. So understand they're looking at Facebook more, they're looking at LinkedIn, they're looking at all these different things. Communicate with your customers, let them know what's going on. Not just emails, social media. Let them see pictures. Let them see your workers at home. Let them know you're out there. Let them know that you're leading them and you're there for them. There's one thing that we all know is the businesses that are out there leading and being there for their customers during this crisis are going to be the ones everybody turns to when we get out of this crisis. So use the technology that you're already using. And that brings up my final point of, you might already be doing a lot of remote stuff, even though it was happening inside the office. If you're already, even if you have a first and second floor and you're sharing files with each other over Google or other platforms and stuff, you're already using remote tools. So don't feel like you have to change every process that you've been doing, because you might already have some good processes in place. This is just a way to fine tune it and find out how we can be more efficient in the future. So I think that's all I have, Vicki.
Sounds great. I just want to encourage people. There's a chat bubble down at the bottom of your screen, and if you have any questions for Joe, that's a good spot. We are a small group, so we could also unmute your mic as well. Anybody have a question? One of the things, Joe, that I had mentioned was that people understand the technology they have, but technology is constantly changing, right? So sometimes it's about, we know that this is working for us, but what else could it be doing? Are there some interesting things that you're seeing with technology that's changing how remote workforce works together?
One of the things that we're learning is people are starting to they're starting to honestly research their own technology that they're already using for that exact purpose. You know, there is a lot of people that were using Microsoft Teams, for instance, just for chatting capabilities and all that. And then when they talked to us, we said, well, why don't you move your files out there? You can share it. And so, you know, most people didn't even know that they could do that. I would encourage people, give your staff some time to during the day, since it's a looser environment, to also look at some of their tools that they're already using and share some of that information and say, hey, guess, you know, maybe once a day have a team meeting, and so people can share what they learned, or maybe what they've heard by being on some of these calls or something like that. I would guarantee that there's a lot of your tools that you're already utilizing that do a lot more than what you think they do, just because you've been using them for a single purpose.
Yeah, I'm going to use our chat here. If anybody in the on the video conference here has some great tools that haven't been mentioned that you're using, type them in here, and we'll give a quick chat about them. I can tell you in our office, obviously we're now using Zoom. It was really clunky at first, so you're lucky to be getting the 3rd or 4th version. Like, I'm still learning double click when you screen share, but that's all part of it. But we use Teams very heavily. It's been our lifeline. And we just had a call before this where we were all sharing what t-shirts we were wearing and telling the story behind it. So there is some life that you can have behind the technology as well. And so those are some essential things. That's what makes us all human, as Joe said. So otherwise, some other technology that we're using, and Joe knows some of this. Obviously, we have file sharing with Ignite and the Microsoft Suite, and we have found even Google Forms. Just, it's so simple. So as for example, on our website, we have where you go in and you fill out a form to tell us, are you open for looking for new customers? Are you hiring? And then that instantly feeds into a Google Sheet that people can see. So that removes a person from having to take information from that form and post it, and then all of our team has access to it. So any questions from out in the group? What's working for you guys? Any questions that you may have? It's a quiet group, Joe.
It is. One of the things, Vicki, that I think is important also is, you know, like you were saying, hey, I learned I had to, you know, you have to double click or something. It is, we as adults are so used to being professional and polished and all this in our presentations. Like I said, everybody knows what we're all going through. So if you forget to double click, who cares? You know, if somebody will say, hey, can't see your screen, you know, don't be afraid to try stuff and learn from it on the fly. We're in this together.
That's great advice. So for all of you that are on the call here, if you will, this is recorded and you can share it out. If there was some great pieces in here, it will be posted on our website. I don't want to keep you guys longer than we need to, but obviously we will be continuing tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I believe, fingers crossed. We will have some of our federal electeds on here, giving us updates on what that federal package looks like. And I know we're booking the city of La Crosse with their financing options for next week. And last but not least, if you have a best practice, or if you have customers that are contacting you with some of those frequently asked questions that we can do a session like this on really quick to benefit all, let our team know. You just click on that past webinars button and there's Maggie's contact information And we would be happy to keep sharing some of these best practices. I always say the benefit of a chamber is that you get to meet other local companies, and that's in times like these, that's what everyone is recommending. Develop your local supply chain because it's going to be far more reliable than trying to go outside of the area. And we are definitely experiencing that in this day and age. So be well. We will hopefully see you tomorrow, and keep plugging away the best that all of you can. And thank you so very much, Joe Ruskey with Dependable Solutions, for doing this for us today.
And Vicki, I just put our help desk email. If anybody has any questions, we're not billing you. If you have questions, shoot them to this email address. I would be happy to address them or send them off to one of my staff that can address it better. We're in this together, so if you have questions, let us know and we'll help you out.
Thank you. And you just gave me a great best practice of, rather than drive people to our website, I can just type the email right in there. So thanks, Joe. So be well, all of you, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.